Send it, buddy. All right. Well, we did it.
We did
Welcome to the
it.
Talking Average Fitness podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Um, if you're joining us from home, hopefully you are, and you're comfortable, and you're just kind of hanging out and doing your thing. Uh, my name is Sam. I'm here all the time. Please don't forget to tip your waitresses. I'm joined, as always, by my friend and compatriot, my partner in virtual crime, sometimes, maybe also sometimes real crime, Mr. Kevin McCarthy. Kevin, how are you today, sir?
I'm doing fantastic. Hope everyone's doing well. Don't wrap your thumb over the pull-up bar.
I
That's lame.
hate. I
Uh,
swear to God.
oh,
This is why we can't have nice things. I hope you know.
this. Well, it's one. I mean, yeah. That and the internet crime is why we can't have nice things.
That and
But
internet
or
crime.
maybe that's why we do have nice things.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it
Uh,
depends on which
eh.
side of the crime operation you're on. Um, so we don't know what the heck we're doing. We should probably say that as many
No,
times as
we
possible.
most of
Um,
the time we don't know what we're doing.
right, and if you're an adult and you're listening to us, you get that because I'm
Yep.
sure as a kid you thought, adults have it figured out, and then at some point, between 20 and 45, you realized that all of a sudden you're an adult, and how did that happen? And I don't have it figured out. And so, like, oh man, they were all making it up as they go along. Um,
Yeah.
in that same
Oh.
vein, the topic of discussion today is a little bit coach centric, right?
Mm.
Um, and by coach centric, I mean this is less about what goes on in affiliates day to day and like CrossFit as a methodology and stuff like that. And it more kind of revolves around like why some coaches do what they do and what their goals are and the evolution that can happen, right? And so I'll tell a quick story. So I had a good friend of mine. Her name is Stacy. She was a longtime member at the affiliate that I was at just recently, and she's since moved to Florida. And she's down there at there's an affiliate in Orlando, right near Disney World, called CrossFit Mousetrap, which great name for an affiliate.
Phenomenal.
Yes, and because Disney is like a huge part of her life, her and her husband have been going down there for years, and they finally bought a place. They're making it official, and so Mousetrap is no longer her home away from home; it's just her home. And so
Mhm.
they came to her and were like, "You've been doing CrossFit a long time. Would you have any interest in coaching?" Which coaches out there, that conversation, right?
Yep.
Like, yeah,
Yep.
like someone gives you the tap on the shoulder, or like maybe you
Hmm.
have a question, and like, how do you become a coach? What does that look like?
Yeah.
Um, and then they give you the answer and blah blah blah, CrossFit level 1, blah blah blah, weekend course, blah blah blah, red shirts. And Stacy went and took her level 1 seminar, and I'm very confident she's going to pass the test. She should be confident too. And she sent me an email afterward. We had talked about it, and she said, is being a red shirt a thing that you would want to do, or is that something you've already done? Um, And for coaches in the know, that can be kind of like you could giggle at that comment a little bit, where it's like when I say coaches in the know, I mean like anybody who's been around more than a minute. Um,
Hmm.
and so to be clear, no, I've never been a red shirt, though I appreciate the implication that I could be. I
Hmm.
could take that as a compliment. But would I want to be a red shirt, right? And
Mm.
I think this is a like a cool thing to kind of explore. And so Kevin, I'm sure you, and so we have a little bit of a unique history in terms of like
Yes.
who we were around, right?
Yep. We've told the
How,
story a few times, basically like how Sam and I developed in coaching and the
yeah,
people that we were very fortunate enough to like kind of step in with as like kind of like the first or one and a half steps into coaching, and you just fall into like, oh hey, look, there's 42 seminar staff people around me. Um, all just whips out the pot of coffee. How's dad life? I
it's great. It's great. It's awesome.
Yeah. Sam's just like
Drew
caffeine
would be so
is his
happy.
blood. Yeah, caffeine in his bloodstream. Just oh man, crushing it.
I love
Um,
coffee.
but yeah, I mean, hey, I love coffee as well. If you
Yeah.
don't love coffee, especially if you work in fitness, like if you're a CrossFit coach, a fitness coach, you operate on caffeine and dreams, and that's about it. Um,
Yeah. Especially if you got that morning shift.
oh baby, that morning. Oh. Um, anyways, yeah, Sam and I were fortunate enough that the affiliates that we kind of like got our, start into development with were owned by, run by, overrun by seminar
Staffed
staff
by. Yeah.
members. Yeah, staffed by seminar staff members. And so we had a really incredible development process that was probably much faster than it would be elsewhere just because of the people that we were around.
Guaranteed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
And to their credit, it was faster because it was adapt or don't. And when we
yeah.
say don't, we
Adapt or
mean
die.
like, yeah, it was adapt or sink or swim. Like
Yeah. Yep.
you did a thing, and Meg Burns would come and be like, stop, stop, do that thing over and different, and
Yeah.
you did it different. Or she would, as she did so many times, look at me and be like, okay, Sam, we're going to talk about this again, and like walk me through how I did the same
Yeah.
thing, the wrong way. And you got to figure that stuff out. And it's a high pressure situation,
Yep.
but if you can make the changes, you adapt so quick, and like you learn
Oh
so
yeah.
much so fast.
I remember the few times that I would like, because I was staffed at the Boston gym primarily. Whenever I got staffed over in the Needham gym to like either cover something, help something out, working that there morning shift with Mr. Greg Martino was terrifying
Mm,
as a new coach. You just get like Greg sitting on a box just staring at you with his fucking Greg eyes, and like what I'm saying if you know Greg, you know the look I'm talking about when I say his fucking Greg eyes. Like he's just,
yeah.
and you can feel it boring into your skull. You like peek over your shoulder, and there's just Greg just sitting on a box, like looks like he's chilling, but has the most intense, like he's just
Mm-hmm.
like Superman style X-ray scanning
Mm-hmm.
everything you're doing with his eyes.
Hasn't blinked
Um,
in 5 minutes.
no, hasn't blinked in 3 days probably. And just knowing like the feedback coming, you like, and especially as you started getting along your development journey, where like you became more self-aware as a coach,
Yeah.
and you'd know that
Oh,
you made a mistake, you'd say something or do something and immediately go, fuck. Like I'm gonna be sitting down on a bench, like staring face to face with Greg, but actually not staring, looking at the floor because I
yeah.
refuse to meet his eyes in this moment. Uh, was just, oh man.
And we don't
So
want to turn
yeah,
coaches off to the idea of working with
no, no,
red
no,
shirts. Like,
no, no, no. They are phenomenal, and they will do everything to make you better. You like, they're not assholes by any stretch of the whatever.
no,
They are the most wonderful humans. But there's also like, and we talked about this on our episode that just released, um, was there's a standard.
yeah,
This is the standard.
yeah,
And you either get to the point where you can meet it or you don't.
yeah,
If you don't, why or why not? Can
yeah,
we fix it? If we can't fix it, maybe you're best suited over there.
yeah,
If you can fix it, they'll work with you to fix it.
yeah.
So,
And like that's an elective position in the sense that like
yep.
we went to them and were like, help us do the thing. And they're like,
Yeah.
okay, come on.
And they were, and then you say, hey, help us do the thing. And then you see Greg just with a little grin, and you're like, no, just kidding. Don't help me. It's not you.
I take it back. I take it back.
Oh, I take it back. Oh my gosh, this is just like funny little side tangent. Again, I keep like poking fun at Greg, but there's
Yeah.
so many good memories with Greg. So when I started my internship at CrossFit One Nation, and the first staff training, team training that we did over in Needham was like any interns had to like teach a movement, like lead the group through a movement.
Classic stuff.
So I had to teach the group the air squat. And it's like people are like, oh, the air squat.
Easy.
It was terrible. So I said, so they're like, so they told me a day in advance, hey Kevin, you're leading the air squat. But I didn't know
Yeah.
who was giving me feedback versus who are the people like doing the movement.
Mm-hmm.
So they were like, air squat, 5 minutes, like just teach the movement type thing.
5 minutes.
Any guesses how long it took me?
47 seconds.
23 seconds. Hey guys, this is the air squat. You squat down, stand up. Okay, please let me leave. Oh,
So accurate.
oh my gosh. So
Do you remember how long it was?
it was like a minute and 27 seconds. Like it felt like 3 days of just
Yeah.
purgatory
Oh
because I
yeah.
hated every minute of it. Because here you rock up to the group and there's 15, 18 people there. Everyone shows up because they're like, oh, it's the new blood. We got to break them in type
Team
thing.
training. Yeah.
Yeah. So the whole full-time staff, all the seminar staff folks show up, like the whole thing. And I'm teaching the air squat to a group of not only the best coaches
Mm.
on the planet,
Hmm.
but also some of the best movers on the planet.
Yeah.
Like if you are on seminar staff,
You
guess
don't
what?
move
You have
bad.
to you have to demo
Yeah.
all the movements
Yeah.
with a PVC pipe. So if you're front rack, if you're like, oh yeah, it takes me, I got to get to 225 before I can get my elbows up. Guess what, homie? You're either not on seminar staff or you're not demoing the squat series.
Yeah.
Um, so they move incredibly well. So I'm like, I remember teaching the first. I can't even remember what I'd blacked out. I can't remember what I said. It's like the first point of performance
Yeah.
because like I knew the points of performance for the air squat, but I was like, okay, do this, and I was like, I have to say squat and stand. It said squat down, and I looked around the group, and it's just like chest up, knees are out, waist and heels. I sat there, I was like, fuck, like
Yeah.
you have to be really nitpicky. And as I learned going along, if I watch James Hobart squat, who's probably the best squatter in the world, if you don't know who James is, just Google CrossFit Air Squat. He's the dumb
He's the
looking
guy.
nerd doing the
He's what you
squats.
see.
He's the one doing it. Yes. Um, Watching James, it's like, does James squat really well? Yes.
Hmm.
Could James's squat be better? Maybe,
Maybe.
probably. You have to look at it with it like, you could give James a cue. If I say, James, push your knees out harder, is that going to
Yeah.
make his squat worse?
Right.
Probably not. It might not, like when you're looking, it might be like, wow, damn, it's a pretty good squat. Could James get a little bit lower?
Right.
Could his knees be out a little bit harder? But of course,
Right.
I wasn't looking at that thing. I just looked at. I was like, that's him. That's the red shirted guy. He's
Right.
squatting.
Right.
I don't know how to fix it. Can I leave? And
Stand.
yeah, at stand. That's one rep. Okay, I'm done. That was it. Uh, oh my gosh, I crashed and burned, and Greg was so I didn't know who was valuing me. It turned out to be
Mm.
Greg. I
Yeah.
immediately pooped myself.
Yeah.
Um, and we go through, and again, I can feel Greg staring at me as I'm teaching the thing. Minute 27 seconds, and Greg was like, "Do you think you got to 5 minutes?" I was like, "No, not a chance in hell. Not even remotely close. Like, not even halfway."
Yeah.
And he was like, "Yeah, it was like a minute 27 seconds." I was like, "Ah, it checks out." But then he was like, gave me a few different ways to kind of make that better.
Hmm.
Didn't force me to go through that gauntlet again and be like, okay, now prove it that you can make it better, because
Right.
it's a pretty short window to like make that happen, being
Right.
again a newer coach.
Yeah.
But like all these guys were willing to like work with me, help with those things,
Hmm.
push me, and like and having those guys push me, I literally, again, because this is how I am, I wasn't able to figure out anything wrong with the group moving. Like I was
Hmm.
like, they all look pretty damn good.
Right.
Move on with your life. So we ended that team training. I went back to the Boston gym and I sat in the office and I went online to cross.com and I signed up for the Spot the Flaw course. And I took that course
Mm.
twice that afternoon. I took it 2 times because once you buy it, you can take it as many times as you want. So I took
Uh,
it 2 times
yeah.
in that afternoon because it pissed me off that I wasn't able to perform the way I wanted to in front of
Right.
that group of coaches. And I was like,
Yeah.
I'm going to make sure that never happens again.
Right.
Um, and just because I'm a psycho.
Yeah.
But all sorts of fun stuff. Well, again, little fun Greg story. I have so
Right.
many, but
So many great stories.
so many
Also,
Greg stories.
also the point of this is like, we have the wonderful had the wonderful good fortune to learn under and work beside these people, and
Mm-hmm.
you know grateful for that. And I think and especially inside of that environment, those humans were so good at making that work
Mm-hmm.
look desirable, right? And part of it was the fact that they took real joy in it. They enjoyed their jobs. They liked doing the work, and they understood both in the micro and in the macro context the impact they were having, not just on the people in the room, but on that community, both local to the gym and the city and the town, and like the power that you wield as a person who has the opportunity to educate someone else can be like mind blowing. And they understood that. And it was really, really cool. And so I think I'm going to speak for you here. I don't
Hmm.
think I'm going to be wrong, though.
You're probably going to be right. You
I'm
you
probably going
know
to be
me
right.
pretty well at this point.
So like, there comes a point where like we as coaches, we're like, that's it, man. I want to do that. And like, I want to stand in the room and I want to be at the seminar and I want to full fucking grip a PVC pipe with 90-degree angle in my elbows and look like a god. And I want to be on staff, right? And
Yep.
I think we think that, and even as coaches who know these people, we spend a lot of time with them. We think we know what that commitment level is and what it's like to do that work and like what it means, quote unquote, to wear a red shirt. Um, and we make an assumption based on what we think about all that stuff. And that's based on that assumption, we're like, yes, I want to do that thing. When in reality, what I know now, many years on, is I had no clue. I had no clue, one, what it meant, like emotionally or like professionally, to wear the shirt, but also two, I had no clue about like the commitment and what it meant professionally to like what that process would look like when it was not being a rock star at a seminar, right? And like
Hmm.
even that being good enough to even get on staff didn't mean that you were good enough. That like shit started all over again. And you're at the bottom of the heap, you know?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So I know now that my view on that kind of thing has changed. Are you in that same boat? Like where, like when you think about wearing the shirt or pursuing wearing the shirt,
Hmm.
because you and I both have our applications in. We've,
Oh yeah. Yep.
we're
It's
sitting
in
here,
there.
waiting for seminar staff to call us and be like, it's your turn to intern, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
all of that is
Yep.
based on need in a given area and stuff.
Hmm.
Um, where are you? What's your emotional availability to that thing?
Oh man, that's it's I go back and forth in my head again because I'm a psycho, and mom
Great way
and
to
raised
begin
no
a
bitch.
sentence.
I have a really hard time like backing down from any sort of like challenge. If
Yeah.
if I don't know is Dave Castro still the director of training
No,
with
it's
Nicole
Nicole.
Carroll? Is it just Nicole?
It's
Okay,
just Nicole.
okay. So if Nicole Carroll called me and was like, "Hey, we've looked at your application. We're hoping you're still coaching CrossFit because your application was put in 3 years ago."
Yeah,
Um,
right.
they're like, "It's your time to shine, buddy. Like you're up. Like you're the next in line for the internship." I think I would have a really hard time saying no. I
Mm,
think saying no would be the right answer. That would be the thing that would make the most sense for me now, where I am professionally, where I am personally.
hmm
The time commitment and travel commitment that I'd be willing to make would like saying no would be the right thing, but I would have a really, really hard time saying no to that because it was everything I wanted for the past 9 years.
Yeah.
Right now, I've been coaching CrossFit professionally, and I'll call it three-quarter time to full time for a decade now.
Yeah.
Um, and it's like for as soon as I got my level one, I went that process. It was life changing for me. Like it
hmm
just the professionalism of the staff, the way the seminar ran, the information given, the stuff that I garnered and was able to move forward with. I finished that level one, and at 5:01 p.m. on that Sunday, I was like, I'm gonna go do that.
Yeah.
Like that's gonna be me.
Yeah.
That's all I want. I'm like the coaching CrossFit, the doing it in affiliate was in my mind at that point just a pathway to get me to a red shirt.
Yeah.
That's all I was like, I want because I knew how profound it was for me. I want to go do that for someone else, for
Yeah.
another future coach, and like
Yeah.
kind of empower them and get them started on the path of awesomeness. that since that was a goal for, again, the past, you know, 9 years or so, it's really only been the past year that I've kind of like changed my mind on it. Um, so since that was the goal, I would for so long,
Hmm.
if they gave me a call, it's like, hey, you're next up for the internship, yes or no.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that's a one-time ticket. If they're like, hey, it's your turn to intern, and you say, not right now, I'll apply again later, I don't think they'll give you a second look.
Yeah.
That could just be in my head. I've fabricated it. I don't know if that's true,
Yeah.
because but I don't think it's existed where someone has applied, declined it first time, and then went again to get it. I don't think that's ever happened.
Yeah.
I think they would just move to the next person. It
Yeah.
wouldn't be like, oh yeah, we'll just get you on the next one. No worries, take your time.
Yeah.
Like if I said no to Nicole Carroll, she'd be like, sweet, you're dead to me. And then my application goes in the incinerator.
Hmm.
Um, and that's that done. Um, so because that was a goal for so long, I would have a really, really hard time saying no. With that said, I know the things that I'm working on and we're working on professionally for coaching
Hmm.
is going to be more worthwhile and valuable for me and
Hmm.
any clients and athletes that we work with. And the things that I do for me personally, my relationship with my wife,
Hmm.
my things I enjoy doing in my spare time would start to go away if I were to pursue this. Because to kind of walk people through just at a minimum time commitment for staff, you get booked on a seminar, it's a Saturday, Sunday seminar.
Yep.
Saturday, Sunday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Yep.
essentially.
Yep.
You have to travel somewhere. I have to go to Ohio. I don't know. I'm just throwing states out there. I got to go to Ohio
They'd probably keep you local, but like
in theory.
Pennsylvania, Virginia,
Yeah.
like.
Yeah. So um, you have to travel somewhere.
Yep.
So plane or car ride, depending on how long it is
Hmm.
Friday. So Friday is relatively short. It's either a long car ride or a plane ride.
Yep.
You're spending Friday traveling. You get there
Yep.
Friday night, so you can wake up Saturday. So Friday is shot.
Yep.
Saturday, Sunday, you do the thing. Depending on how your schedule works out, you can maybe like, sneak a Sunday, like late night flight or drive back. So you're back Monday, but that's a
Hmm.
late fucking night. Or
Yeah.
Monday's a travel day. Now Monday's shot. So those 4 days are your travel, seminar, travel again.
Yep.
And then you have Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday to prep, adjust your life, have a cup of coffee before you go do it again.
Yep.
And that's if you're a full-time staff member where you know, are working gigs every weekend or almost every weekend. I'm not sure what the requirements are for full-time. I know they've shifted it 17 different times.
Well, so the last time
But
I heard, and this was earth shattering to me, is
okay.
that part time
Hmm.
was every other week. So full time staff, it's every weekend. Part
Okay.
time staff, it's every other weekend. So that's 26 weekends a year.
Yeah. Boom. Um, yeah, that's so
I mean,
okay. That's yeah.
if it's a 4 day cycle, travel,
Yep.
seminar, seminar, travel,
Yep.
and you do two per month, roughly,
Yep.
that's eight
Yep.
days. For all intents and
Hmm.
purposes, that's a whole week.
Yep.
That's a week every month
Hmm.
of travel and seminar. And effectively across the entire year, that's 12 weeks. That's a full quarter. That's 3 months
Hmm.
of the year that you
Yep.
are gone away doing things.
Yep. Gone away from your family.
Yeah.
Um, you know, and don't get me wrong, like if seminar staff is something that people want to pursue, it's a worthwhile pursuit. You just have to be really honest with yourself about what you want, where you see your career going as a coach, and this is a real businessy term, but like a return on investment of
Yeah.
kind of like your time, your effort, your energy, and your expertise
Yeah.
for that versus anything else you'd want to pursue as a professional coach.
Mhm.
And that's at the bare minimum. Now I know that for those guys that are full-time staff and are working every weekend, the amount of prep, studying, like things of again, these guys they hold a standard.
Yeah.
So if you make a mistake on one of your lectures, You're
Mm.
going to practice that lecture twice a day for your 3 off days to make
Yep.
sure when you go back on the next seminar, you get it right.
Yeah.
And the thing is like, that's a never ending. You're never going to 100% crush it every time, because every time, whenever we would host a seminar at the gym, I would volunteer in my "this is what I want to do" type thing. I would
POC, baby.
volunteer. Yep. Oh yeah, POC. Um, if you listen to that real quick, it doesn't mean piece of shit. It's point of contact. Um, and so um, it basically means you're the person that works at the gym,
Mm-hmm.
that you're there to make sure the show runs smoothly. You're there
Yeah.
to wipe off the whiteboard, supply Denise with her red, blue, and black markers,
Yes.
um, of pristine crispness.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, if I mean this might be a gym specific thing. The toilet would always get clogged across at Boston
Yeah.
every single seminar, so now I'd have to go to war with that fucking thing.
Yeah.
Um,
You got to open the
so
doors.
just
You got to let them
oh
in. You
yeah,
got to. You're
yeah,
the
let them
first one
in.
there, last one out.
If it's a winter seminar, you make sure the heat's appropriate. If it's a summer seminar, you make sure that if you have air conditioning at your gym or an air system, that it's like at least somewhat on. We had a seminar in CrossFit
Mm.
Boston once that was like mid-July. It was like 100 and some odd degrees and like 90% humidity. And, we used to tell members like, you can't, I mean, the air conditioning is so expensive. So most gyms don't keep air conditioning on, but it's like
Yeah.
it existed. And it's like, people paid
Yeah.
$1,000 to be here.
Yeah.
You can't just like let people die of heat stroke in your gym. That
Yeah.
wouldn't be a good look. So like you kick the air on, you kick the heat on, just to something that's reasonable so people can do the thing.
Mm-hmm.
You're there to assist however you can, but then the cool thing is you get to observe the seminar. Now,
Yeah.
I had done POC things where I lived relatively close, and I had things going that weekend where I was like, Austin, Denise, Spencer, you guys have my number. If you need something,
Yep.
I'm 10 minutes away. Let me know, and I'll run over and take care of whatever it is. But
Absolutely.
most of the seminars, I'm there with my notebook and pen, and I'm taking notes, and I'm
Yeah.
learning, and I'm watching them teach, and I'm watching them lecture
Yes.
to try and like improve myself. Cause I'm like, this is where I want to be. So I'm going to watch those people do what they're doing. Um, and it's just so mind blowing. Watch, like it's incredible to see up close from like a coach's eye versus like a participant eye, because you get a
Mm-hmm.
different look if you're participating in the seminar versus like I'm also a coach and I'm
Yeah.
just sat back observing. It was, man, but the times that I'm observing and as POC, every single seminar I watched people make mistakes,
Yeah.
because I got to a point where I knew the material
Yeah.
intimately.
Yeah.
I knew what was supposed to be said in what order for
Mm-hmm.
the squat series, for the nutrition lecture, for the pressing lecture, for the GHD lecture,
Mm-hmm.
and you'd see people make a mistake. Um, and you could see it. I remember Lachlan one time was teaching the overhead squat, or
Yeah.
he was doing the squat lecture. I think he had Larry demonstrating,
Mm-hmm.
um, and he's doing a great job. If you don't know who Lachlan is, he's Australian, so like it's understanding him is iffy on a good day.
If you
But
watch
he's
Bluey, you've got a leg up.
yeah, pretty much. And so he's going through, and I could see the moment where he realized he'd done goofed. Is he was going through. Now I'm going to have Larry like squat down and stand up. He like paused for a second. I could see
Yeah.
in his eyes. He was like,
Yeah.
I forgot to talk about establishing an overhead position,
Mm-hmm.
and like just left that right after the lecture. But you're too far gone now. She's like, all
Yeah.
right, we got to do it. So he goes through. He finishes up. They're like, all right, we're gonna break out into the next bit, or like Denise is gonna come up and say her bit. He comes over and sits down next to me on the bench, and I'm just like grinning at him because I know what happened. And he
Yeah.
just sits down. He goes, "I know what I fucking did. Shut the fuck up." And I was like,
Eh.
"Oh," but
Well, it's yeah, and so FYI, if you are the kind of person who's interested in staff and you're first of all, if you can, like your gym, like if it's big enough and it's got the equipment, you should try to host seminars. Um,
have him host, hundred
yeah,
percent.
absolutely. And if you're the kind of coach who's interested in staff and you want to be able to get more reps on your eyeballs in terms of seeing that operation, volunteer to be POC. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's a great experience for level 1 or level 2. Like there's a lot to learn there.
So
And
much.
you know, I've had the same experience at multiple time level 1 and level 2 POC, being able to not just watch them as they go through the lectures, but like watch how they coach
Exactly.
the
Teach the
breakout
movement.
groups.
Yeah, watch the
Exactly.
breakouts.
Like what is happening. And you get a very interesting and different understanding of what is going on.
Mhm.
And you do it long enough, you start to understand that what is happening at a seminar is not what happens in a class, right? Like,
No.
and
No.
I've had it described to me by people who are on staff. Like the seminar is a very contrived experience. Like it's very deliberate, and they have it
Mhm.
set up that way for a reason. You're trying to take, a bunch of people of varying levels from naught to 60 as quickly as possible, and to do that, like you have to like they don't want your super nuancy, unique version of how to teach the squat. They want points of
Yep.
performance, and they want you to execute on those points of performance in a
Yep.
progression and
Mhm.
fucking teach seeing correct with your pants off.
Yep.
Um, and my understanding is that's really the thing. Like
Yeah.
they want you to do and like be entertaining and personable and not a jerk, you know. But you got to do that, and so like that's the prerequisite. And so what I've been told is many people who are fantastic coaches would be terrible on staff, and many
Yep.
people who are on staff are maybe not the most.
Not the
Um,
best in class or in
yeah,
one-on-one settings or yeah.
yeah, and like that's not to take away from their abilities as coaches or athletes or
No, no, no.
professionals. Like they're very
Yep.
good at that thing, but just to highlight the difference between what we experience in level 1 and what actually goes on when you are a quote unquote coach. Um,
Mhm.
and so like I I love that you said, you know, now
Mhm.
for my own personal and professional goals, I'd really have to think about it.
Mhm.
And for me, it was kids, right? We had
Yep.
when my first son Noah was born, I took a job that was an hour away. It was so we lived in Walpole. I had to drive into Boston every morning, 8 hours a day in
Yeah.
there, and then an hour back. If you got kids, you know what I'm talking about. That's hard to be away from your family for that long, right?
Mhm.
And so I ended up stepping out of that position because it was so hard to be away from my family. And also because like my wife worked remotely. And so to have her at the time, we didn't have any childcare. So to have her be responsible for my son and to do work, that's a really hard thing for me to ask my wife to do.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's a lot. And so
That's why moms are
na-
superheroes.
moms are superheroes. Yeah, for sure.
That's 100%.
Um, and so when I think now, and like now I've got two kids. I don't have one kid. I have two kids. Like
Just up
I'm
the ante.
I'm very, very fortunate to be in a position where I have a relationship with some specialty courses and I have the opportunity to go out and do work with them. I I will do that anytime I can. And I occupy a very specific position with those specialty courses. So the demand for who I am and the role I fill as a coach is not perpetual in the sense that like they don't need a guy like me every single weekend. Um,
Mhm.
my buddy Dane Levy out of Florida, who's now lead coach for CrossFit Gymnastics, and if just a fantastic mover. He's the guy who shows up in a lot of videos a lot of the times, and he's a guy that they need every weekend because his quality of movement is so high, you know,
Mhm.
and his ability to demo and be consistent. Um, I don't know if Dane would be able to do what he does if he had a kid or if he had two
Mhm.
kids. And if he did have kids, like it would be a major consideration in his life, like being a part of a staff or a specialty course. Like we're going to build the logistics of our life around this as an occupation, and that's kind of what you have to do. And I'm in a position now where one of the most powerful things I heard was with kids, you have 4 years and only the first 4 years to establish who they are and the foundational interactions or level of interaction that they will be able to have with other people for the rest of their lives. because after the age of like 5, they go off to school, they go off to daycare regularly. Maybe before that, they go to daycare regularly, but they go off to school. Now they're in the education system. And whether or not they can play well with others, whether or not they're too physical or not, like all of that stuff has already been established and it's almost
Hmm.
impossible to change.
Yep.
And my responsibility has changed from I need to save people's lives to the potential good I can do with these two boys, raising them the best that I can and being a present father
Hmm.
will overshadow almost everything I do professionally, personally. And so for these 5 years now, because we just had our second, for these 5 years, I don't have the ability to, like, if they called me and they were like, it's your turn, I would have to say no, even
Hmm.
knowing that
Yep.
I might never get a chance, like, ever again.
Yep.
I would have to say no. Um, and I'm very fortunate to like be a part of some other specialty groups and being able to do that on a more periodic basis. And I'm grateful. I'm so grateful that I get to do that. And I love those teams. Um, I also am so cognizant of like what I'm asking my wife to do when I disappear
Hmm.
for 4 days. And
Yep.
like we work real hard. Like, thank God my parents are close. Like, Mom, can you come and help out for a couple days? That kind of thing. Um, just because it's a lot. It's a lot to handle.
It's
Two
it's
kids,
it's so much.
right?
Yeah.
And I so yeah. So if they called, I would have to say no.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that like all is lost. And to your point earlier, now the work that I do professionally, it's the last year of my life has been a huge paradigm shift in terms of
Mm.
understanding not just how, but where I can have value and effect in people's lives. Um, and being able to do so at the affiliate level is awesome, but there are limitations to that.
Hmm.
In my professional endeavors, where I get to work very, very closely one on one with clients, being able to do so is wonderful. But there are limitations to that. Like, you want
Hmm.
to go deep, you can't go wide. I can't handle more than a handful of people at a time. Um,
Yep.
and so it's different. It's really different. And it's
Hmm.
not a position had you asked me 3 years ago before the birth of my son, it would be like, red shirt or die, you know?
Yep. Yeah.
And and now it's
Yeah.
it's it's just had to change.
Yeah. Yeah. I like I had wanted to be on seminar staff so badly. Like this is the and that was the only thing I was like, you know, people sometimes like, well, they'll get their level 3
Hmm.
to be like, I want to show that like I'm competent, that I like that I am this level of coach and like, be able to provide a better service. But for me, I
Yeah.
was like, I want to get the level 3 because it's the minimum requirement to be on seminar staff. Like you
Yeah.
have to have your level 3 to be on staff. So I was like, I don't really care for much else aside from that. And I passed the level 3 with like relatively minimal studying because I was doing so much development with James and Lachlan for seminar staff. I was like, guys, I want to go do this. Help me.
Yeah.
And so I had them give me feedback. We talked programming, we talked triaging
Hmm.
for days, just like going over the nuances of things. And we went over so much and did so much development that I didn't
Yeah.
really need to do an absurd amount of studying to pass the level 3.
Yeah.
So getting my level 3 didn't make me a better coach. I became a better coach in my pursuit of the level 3. And I
Yes.
think you have to kind of frame that in your mind. Like passing an exam, you could study your face off and go pass an exam and be like, I have my CrossFit level 3, but
Yeah.
you could still be a shit coach.
Yeah.
Um, but it's like, you can become a vastly greater coach in your pursuit of level 3 and your development of that.
Yeah.
But it's something I had wanted so badly that, I put my application in mid 2019,
Hmm.
I think.
Yeah.
been 4 years. Jesus. I sat there because we had said 3 years before. I'm like, well, it's 2023 now. I don't know
Yeah.
what time went. Whoops. Anyways, I think it was like mid-ish 2019, like summer to fall region,
Mm-hmm.
um, in there. And so put the application in, didn't hear anything back. Was like, James, should I hear something back? And he was like, yeah, you sent it to this email, right? I was like, nope, you told me send it to this email. He was like,
Yeah.
oh, just kidding, send it to this one.
Yeah.
Thanks. So, a couple weeks later, sent it to the right email, and all I heard back was like a relatively short email that was basically
Yeah.
like, hey, we don't have any spots open in your region at the moment. Once
Yep.
we do, we'll let you know.
Yep.
I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
So beginning of 2020, before like in the winter, it might have been like January-ish 2020. So before the world all fell apart, I reached back, hey, just want to follow up on this. I'm
Yep.
still interested. And they were like, yep, we've got you on file. Still no spots open, but we'll let you know. Okay, great. World falls apart. They're doing less seminars here, there, everywhere. So as towards, I think it was the end of 2020 that they started doing seminars again, but everyone had to wear masks in certain regions and it was a whole thing. Anyways, they start running seminars again. So I reach back out again because I
Yep.
know there's been some shifting around. People from staff have moved. Meg Burns has
Oh
gone
yeah.
here. Greg Martino's gone there. I'm like, oh, they're losing some staff members. So I put that just to give it a little poke. It's like, hey guys, just wanted to follow up. Like I know some people from staff have moved. Like not sure what staff looks like, but if I'm available, I'm here, still interested. If you're willing and able, and they were like, yep, you know, we'll get back to you if any spots open up. Still nothing. I was like, okay, great. So the last email I sent was I was just like, hey, like just want to follow up one more time. It was like 6 months after that one. We're like in 2021 now. I was like, hey, like I'm
Yeah.
still exist. And it was just a very, but they were like, basically like, we fucking know you're here.
Yeah.
We have your shit on file.
Yeah.
If anything opens up, we'll let you know. And I was like, all right. And I
Yeah.
haven't reached out since. I'm like, at this point, I probably pissed them off to the point where they have chucked my application into the incinerator. But I'm in a similar boat where it's something I've wanted for so long. So I would definitely struggle with it if they did reach out and say, hey, we'd like to have you. I would struggle. But the right answer would be no
Yeah.
for everything that I want to do personally, professionally, in coaching. It just wouldn't be the right path for me.
I I tell you I tell you what I will do,
Hmm.
regardless of what my future is I will take the level 4 exam
Okay.
because to
Okay.
me that says more about, so like to your point, I didn't have to, I studied for my level 3,
Mm-hmm.
but I
Yep.
honest to God, I believe if you live, eat, breathe and shit CrossFit, you'll pass the level 3.
Yeah, pretty much.
And even people who study real hard, if you do strength in a metcon, you're gonna have a hard time passing that fucking test.
You're gonna have a
Like
really hard time.
you
You're gonna have a
really
really
are,
hard
because
time
you're not doing CrossFit the
because
way
you
it.
don't understand the methodology, the way
Well,
it's
so
meant
you
to.
might understand the methodology, but how
Okay.
you're implementing it day to day
True.
is
Yeah.
not lining up with what the methodology uh, expresses. Um, so I didn't have difficulty passing my level 3, and what I've come to learn since is the level 3 says nothing about me as a coach. It says that I'm really good at knowledge acquisition,
Mm-hmm.
and like, yay for that. Considering my particular history and how I was brought up and the kind of coaching that I have been taught to do, the level
Mm-hmm.
4 would mean more to me. Not because it's a level higher, but because it's actually an assessment of my coaching ability. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm and my coaching pedigree and heritage is in line with the things that they are assessing in the level 4. And so, does CrossFit think that I coach CrossFit the way CrossFit should be done at the highest possible level? And that would be the thing that I would be
Yeah.
seeking validation on. So
Fair enough.
that'll be a thing that I will do, and This year would be awesome. I don't know if it'll happen, but
Say like when they had released level 4, I was like, jury's out on whether or not I'll do it. I'm not sure for me if I would find much value in it aside from
you
just
should do it.
giving myself a pat on the back. Don't tell me
You
what to
should
do.
do it. You should do it.
I'm just gonna so no my next order of business. I'm gonna get myself on the gymnastics seminar so I can tell people not to wrap their thumb. Just because. Just I'm gonna make that my life mission.
Birdie will never let you near a bar ever again if you try to do that. You're like,
Okay, challenge accepted.
this is Kevin. Fucking ignore everything he says.
So what I'm
He's
gonna do is
full of shit.
I'm gonna play along and be like wrap a thumb, wrap a thumb. I'm gonna do everything exactly right. First seminar when they're like, all right, you're up for the lecture. I'm like, all right, guys, wrapping your thumb is for nerds.
I'm gonna
And
show him this footage. Right.
I'll work one seminar and then never again. Be like, you're banned.
I promise we're professionals. I promise, ladies and gentlemen. All
Yeah,
right. I I thought this was really, really nice kind of rabbit hole to go down.
yeah,
And
yeah.
an interesting, a little
Good
bit different
conversation to
topic,
have.
an interesting conversation for us to have, kind of assess and be honest with people about where we are. And so a little bit personal, and a little bit less oriented toward the community, but important nonetheless. Final thoughts,
Mhm.
questions, concerns before we head out?
No, just
Word.
before you decide that something's what you want to do, like take a real objective inventory of what your life looks like, what the
Yeah.
requirements of that pursuit will be, whatever that pursuit is. This could,
Yeah.
go way beyond coaching, but anything that you're going to go after, what does that look like? Is it going to bring value into your life and the people around you's
Mhm.
life via extension of yourself?
Yeah.
And will it be a worthwhile use of your time, effort, energy, and so on?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
go
There's,
from there.
you'll never go wrong trying to be honest with yourself about things like that.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
All right, Kevin, have a great rest of your day. Ladies and gentlemen, have a great week, and we will see y'all next week. Peace.